everyone. Welcome back to the Anime Iceberg. I'm Megan,
And I'm Meg.
and today we're here to record the promised bonus episode of Tokyo Ghoul that we said we would do.
Yes, we finally finished it, and
Woof, what an experience.
glad to be done, honestly.
It was a lot.
Yeah, if you're not familiar with the show, basically it's set in Tokyo, obviously, and and it's about humans and then a race of ghouls who have to eat humans to survive. And they're basically humans, except they can only eat humans.
And they each have a
Um,
special power that they can
Yes,
use.
they have their um
Kagunes, right?
yes, Kagane. I never remember because they they their thing is called something, but then the weapons that the
Oh,
CCG
the
makes called
the
something
Queen
else.
K's, Queen
Yes.
K's.
So I was like, which one is which? Um yeah, and then the main character, Kaneki, he gets like
Ghoulify.
organs from a ghoul transplanted into him, and then he becomes half human, half ghoul. And
Yep.
that's
I
the
mean, it's
basic
an
premise.
interesting premise. And when we first started watching it, the first handful of episodes, I was like, "Oh, interesting." And
Hmm.
the intro song is quite the banger. So,
Yep, I think pretty much everyone I talked to, like when I mentioned I was watching the show, they were either like, "Oh, the intro," or they're like, "Oh, I watched the show because of the intro." They're like,
mm-hmm.
"Yep."
Oh,
Whenever I see like the little like reels on Instagram where it's like the most
yes,
popular songs, Tokyo Ghoul is like the most popular for
a long
like
time.
yeah, it was very popular.
Yeah. I have a coworker who I told her when I was watching Tokyo Ghoul, she's like, "Yeah, I started watching that too." But as soon as I learned that it was going to deviate from the manga, I stopped and switched to the manga. And so I feel like she watched enough. She saw the famous intro and she was good.
Good for her.
And
We did
the
not
art
do
from the
that.
manga is great. Like I flipped through the art book before. It's beautiful. But yeah, I guess on that track what we could start out with is we were curious about what the main differences between the manga and the anime were. Um, because season two of the anime is all original, and then when they go back for Tokyo Ghoul Re in the anime, they go back to the manga. So a lot of stuff got messed up, and we got pretty confused about what was happening at certain points in the story. So we wanted to kind of do some research since we will not be reading the manga. Um, I don't know, just for how violent it was in the show, the manga's probably 10 times worse, so I don't think I can do that. But I found two articles from CBR.com, and so one of them is called 15 Differences Between the Tokyo Ghoul Anime and Manga. So it says Number 15, Suzuya's injuries were less severe in the anime. So this one I'm not so mad about because Suzuya got hurt in the manga to the point where his leg was cut off. And in the anime, it just gets like broken or crushed under something. So then when they go back to, when they go to Tokyo Ghoul Re, we see that Suzuya has a prosthetic leg. And honestly, I just assumed they had to amputate his leg because it was pretty crushed in the anime. So it being cut off in the manga, it's not that big of a difference. Number 14, Kaneki never invaded Kokuya in the manga. So the Kokuya raid was in the anime, but he never did it in the
Yeah,
manga.
that was the prison, right?
Right. And instead, in the manga, he invaded Dr. Kano's lab and discovered he
Oh,
was running unethical experiments on other one-eyed
which
ghouls.
makes so much sense in when you watch season three.
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
And Kaneki also learned that Rize was still alive. The anime left it unclear as to whether or not Rize survived. Angered by his discoveries, Kaneki ate Dr. Kano's experiments and obtained his new Kakuja. This is another example of how much the anime derailed from its source material.
Oh, interesting. Because
Yes.
that did happen in season 3. He ate all of those guys at the end and then became that huge monster.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes,
It's
it did
just
happen, but just
it's
not in the same way.
no, no. Number 13, Kaneki's torture scene was changed in the anime, and I have heard somebody complain about this before because in the manga it was really impactful. Kaneki's torture was arguably the most important event in the manga. It marked the point of no return, but the anime kind of killed all the hype around it. In the manga, Komori offered Kaneki a brutal choice. He'd have to choose between saving a child or her mother. In the anime, he's offered a similar choice, but it's not a mom and her daughter. In the manga, Kaneki ate Yamori's kakuo after breaking free and says, I don't want to be responsible for your life, which is entirely omitted from the anime.
Hmm.
Number 12, the manga has more scenes with Kaneki and Toka. So their relationship seemed far-fetched to some anime-only viewers, but they had more scenes together in the manga. So Toka trained Kaneki to be a better fighter in the manga. Um, so this meant that anime-only fans were confused when Kaneki seemingly had a wild burst of strength and could take down Yumori easily. I kind of assumed he trained off screen.
Yeah, me too. And he even said that other guy was
It's like helping
training
him.
him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It may seem inconsequential, but it was an important mini arc that showed how much Toka and Kaneki actually cared about each other, and it helped provide like that relationship that was built throughout the series. Number 11, Kaneki's sudden hair change was different in the manga. So Kaneki spent 10 days getting tortured by Jason. We didn't know how long that was, and now
Yeah,
that's making me
yeah, he
sad.
never said.
Eventually, he underwent Marie Antoinette syndrome, and his hair turned white from the constant stress. Arguably, this depiction was one of the few things that the anime did better than the manga. The transformation happened suddenly and without any real explanation in the anime. In the manga, however, Kaneki's hair gradually changed during his moments of dissociation. It made viewers realize the white hair was symbolic of his ghoulish half taking over, and he'd never be the same again. Number 10, the anime switched arcs around. So the events with Tsukiyama occurred first in the manga, then the Dove emergence arc came after. The anime switched things up by putting the events with Amon and Mato, then introduced Tsukiyama. There was no reason or explanation for the rearrangement. Some thought it's because Kaneki and Toka's respective fights against the CCG were more exciting than those involving Tsukiyama. However, there's no confirmation. Number
Wait,
9,
Sugiyama, is that the guy with the glasses?
Tsukiyama. Tsukiyama. I'm pronouncing it different than they did in the dub.
Okay.
It's
That
Skiyama. Yes. Yes.
okay.
Sorry. Number 9, Toka and Kaneki's undercover mission at the CCG headquarters was omitted. So during the Dove Emergence arc, Kaneki and Toka snuck into CCG headquarters. This is a somewhat comical moment that did not make its way into the anime because the studio thought it was unimportant. In the manga, Mato forced Kaneki through an RC detector suspicious he was a ghoul in disguise. However, the gate did not go off, indicating to the investigator his suspicion was false, but also allowing the viewer to realize just how different Kaneki was from the other ghouls. Unfortunately, this minor but crucial event did not make the cut for the anime. That's interesting.
Hmm. Yeah, that is interesting.
Number 8, Amon's Arata didn't make the final cut. The final fight between Kaneki and Amon in Tokyo Ghoul had a lot of anticipation surrounding it. In the manga, we got to see Amon equipped with the Arata armor, going all out against Kaneki. The battle left Amon without an arm and Kaneki with a gaping wound in his side. In one of the final episodes of the Tokyo Ghoul Route A, Amon did not fight with the Arata Proto 2, only using his Quinke. I don't
Yeah,
care.
and I feel like we barely even got to see them fight.
I know.
Like it was just like huge clouds of dust, and we're like, oh, what happened?
Yeah. Number 7, key pieces of information and context were omitted from Tokyo Ghoul Re. In the beginning chapters of Tokyo Ghoul Re, anime-only viewers are likely to be a little lost. No duh. New characters, different environment, confusion from the final events of Tokyo Ghoul culminated the need for an explanation. However, these details and key explanations were overlooked, essentially skipping character backstories and details specifically regarding the Krink squad. Moreover, the final season of Tokyo Ghoul Re followed this pattern, skipping more key information about events and characters. Hayase/Kaneki leaving the Quink Squad, Takatsuki's characterization and basically the whole Operation Rishima were overlooked. This lack of depth made the plot difficult to follow and left many viewers perplexed. Hmm. Oh my goodness. Number 6, Kaneki didn't break 103 of Ayato's bones in the anime. What? Okay. Kaneki became stronger after enduring days of torture during the Aogiri Tree arc. When he finally broke free of his imprisonment and saw that Ayato nearly killed Toka, he was furious. Kaneki and Ayato fought, but Kaneki gained the upper hand and decided to give Ayato a taste of his own medicine. Since Ayato half killed his sister, Kaneki thought it was only fair he would half kill Ayato by breaking half the bones in his body. This was omitted in favor of the Aogiri Tree members coming to collect Ayato and forcing him to retreat from the fight.
I'm not sad I didn't see that.
Oh.
Oh, that's rough.
Number 5, Rize had a bigger role in the anime than she ever did in the manga.
Oh,
Rize
really?
appears
I don't like her at all. Ugh.
Rize appears to Kaneki more in the anime than she does in the manga. Through hunger-induced hallucinations, Rize taunted Kaneki for struggling against his ghoulish half. In the manga, the hallucinations don't appear until his torture scene. This scene's interesting change because it's one of the first additions instead of an omission. Some argue it gives the season more dimension. However, in the later seasons, Rize's fate becomes a bit iffy. In the Tokyo Ghoul manga, Kaneki finds Rize in Dr. Kano's lab, where he uses her to make one-eyed ghouls. Before the fourth season of the anime, it was unclear if Rize was dead or alive, as it did not include these events. Oh, number 4. Kaneki's chin touch didn't happen as much in the anime. After everything Kaneki endured in the series, he's no longer the honest, innocent kid fans met at the beginning. He became a compulsive liar and spreads blatant misinformation to everybody he meets, whether it's his mother, Hide, Toka, or even himself. In the manga, he habitually touched his chin whenever he lied. This mannerism added more dimension to his character at that point. For some reason, this particular character trait didn't happen as much in the anime. It was one of Tokyo Ghoul's biggest production mistakes since it took away from Kaneki's characterization and took away from Ishida's excellent writing.
Hmm.
Hmm.
That's really interesting.
Yeah. Number 3, and I mentioned this one to you before. The I am a ghoul scene was watered down. During his days of torture at Yomori's hands, Kaneki underwent a major transformation physically and mentally. Kaneki got more in touch with his ghoulishness as he prepared to break out of the shackles and defeat his captor. In the manga, it was a major scene with one of the most iconic visuals of all time. The panel made it look like Kaneki was ripping his skin off and digging his fingers into his eyes as he yelled, "I'm a ghoul!" Unfortunately, the anime seriously disappointed viewers with its version of the scene. Instead of an emotional gore fest, it was watered down into an anticlimactic, melancholy scene that made Kaneki look like a generic emo kid while reciting the lines. Yes, and the YouTube video I watched that mentioned that when that happened, they used the English dub version after Kaneki said I'm a ghoul. He started playing Cut My Heart in Pieces. This is my last resort.
Honestly, like, don't even really remember that scene, so.
No. Okay,
Ugh.
number 2. The anime changed Hide's fate for no reason. In the Tokyo Ghoul manga, Hide's fate was unknown. Ishida purposely left it up for the viewers to debate and decide what happened to him. Kaneki found his best friend underground. It was implied that Kaneki blacked out and killed him during a moment of instability. In the anime, this plot beat is entirely altered for no reason. Hide died from a fatal wound he received in battle. Kaneki couldn't handle the loss, but he carried Hide's lifeless body to Arima. It was a major inconsistency that made the series more complex than it already was. And number 1, Tokyo Ghoul Route A entirely deviated from the source material. Tokyo Ghoul's second season infuriated a lot of manga readers. It entirely deviated from the source material. Even anime-only fans consider it the worst season because it just felt so nonsensical and contrived. All of the anime's events essentially function to eradicate any character development Kaneki underwent in the previous episodes, making him a shell of who he became in the manga. Many fans disregard this route as non-canonical, though it technically leads to the events in the third season, it's still disappointing. So much of the budget went to such an unnecessary plot line and ultimately took away from the quality of seasons 1 and 3. And I think Meg would add that it was unnecessary to have him walk through the snow for like 5 minutes.
Oh, so mad. No, it wasn't just 5 minutes. It was like half the episode. He just walking through the snow, not saying anything. And then like when you get to the end and you don't even see what happens. Like, uh that was I was like, I'm ready to be done with this episode.
Okay, and the second article I think has some more differences. So one of them is Arima versus Kaneki. So Kaneki's fight against Arima right at the end of the first part of the series is quite the iconic one in the manga. It gives Kaneki his first taste of what absolute strength feels like. It also leads to him becoming Hayase Sasaki later on. In the anime, however, this bit is completely absent. Tokyo Ghoul Route A concludes in a very different manner, where Kaneki simply goes on to stand before Arima towards the end with Hide's body in his arms. Although the implication that the two fought after is there, the story is very different. Okay, the next one is about Rize, which we already said her role is different, but she's actually alive in the manga, although the state she's in can barely see her as classified as someone alive. Um, but that makes sense because we saw her at the end, at the end of Tokyo Ghoul Re when he had to like cut that egg-looking thing when
Oh
Rize
yeah,
was
we
inside.
saw her.
That makes sense because she was still being used for experiments. The pacing is different. The first part of the anime isn't that bad, although it does change the story a lot. Tokyo Ghoul Re, however, is extremely rushed, and to put that in perspective, know that the Tokyo Ghoul Re manga has almost 180 chapters, which the anime adapts in just 24 episodes split into two cores.
Ooh.
Yeah. Another difference is Kaneki's defection. After Kaneki's transformation in his fight against Jason, he awakens a different person and undergoes major changes. He no longer associates himself with Anteku, much to the displeasure of everyone there, especially Toka. In the anime, Kaneki is seen joining Agiri Tree to prevent them from attacking Anteku ever again. However, in the manga, Kaneki doesn't do anything even remotely close to joining the Agiri Tree. Instead, he forms his own group with Bajo Hinami and Tsukiyama and tries to look for Kano. In both cases, however, his contact with Anteku is minimal. Then the one that got me the most that's different, Hide's death, which they mentioned before. This doesn't say much about it, but I did look it up. I found a Reddit post. So what really happened with Hide in the manga is when they, like I mentioned in the previous article, when he and Kaneki met back up, Kaneki was starving, and ghouls go kind of crazy when they starve, and Hide basically said, "You can eat me, so you can stay alive." And when Kaneki woke up from his stupor, he just, tasted blood, and then Hide was nowhere to be found, so he assumed he ate him. But when Hide shows back up again, obviously he's got the scars on his face, so Kaneki ate some of his face.
Yikes.
Yeah.
That's a rough spot to choose to eat.
Yeah. Couldn't have chosen like a finger or a
Right.
leg,
Take a bite out of the shoulder. Like,
maybe a calf.
yeah.
But they made the point of saying Kaneki was like mad from starvation because ghouls do go nuts when they,
Hmm.
they haven't
Yeah.
eaten. But this article concludes by saying that the ending was the same across both pretty much. It says Ishida put an end to Kaneki's story in Tokyo Ghoul Re in a sad yet beautiful manner. The bittersweet ending left the fans saddened due to the story finally coming to an end, yet happy since Kaneki finally got all that he deserved in life. This is pretty much consistently adapted in the anime as well. Just like the beginning, the end to Kaneki's story is the same as Ishida intended it to be. What happens in the middle is in the anime is nothing short of a catastrophe, but hey, at least Kaneki got a happy ending in both versions, right? Maybe someday we'll see an adaptation it truly deserves.
Hmm. Honestly,
I don't know.
after hearing that, the differences, I don't like if they adapted it, made a one-to-one adaptation, it would be awesome for the fans, but I don't think I could watch it. I think it's
No,
too
it
dark.
was too much. It was too much. Maybe that makes me sound like a wimp, but I just don't enjoy hearing those noises.
Oh yeah, every time he cracked his
Ah!
fingers. That was
I
terrible.
don't know why that bothered me more than the slurpy noises when they're eating flesh.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. It like sounds like they're breaking their fingers and
Yeah.
it's terrible. Uh, okay. Well, those are some of the major differences. And we just want to talk about like what we did like about it and then what we did not like about it, which I feel like
The
goes
list is
along with
longer for
I feel like it goes along with a lot of the differences that
Right. Exactly.
um so what we did like about it is I like the found family. Like I liked Anteku
I like the Quink
and
Squad, even though they have a horrible name.
yeah, such a terrible name. Oh, every time they said it, I thought of something else. But it
5 years old.
yeah, right. But it just an unfortunate name.
Hmm.
At least in if you're a native English speaker, I guess. Um and with like the found family, there were characters that I liked. Like I liked Kaneki. I
Yeah.
thought he was cinnamon roll, and there were moments where I like didn't totally understand him, but for the most part, I liked him.
He was a good boy and
Um,
he liked reading books, so he's good in
yep.
my eyes.
And I think I liked everybody at Onteku.
Yeah.
Um, and the Quink Squad for the most part. And some of the CCG people, mostly just Juzo. Like
Yeah.
and I liked Amon too. And I also feel like if we would have got to know him better, I would have liked Arima. Like he
Yeah.
seemed
He
cool.
seemed well, Kaneki was really attached to him, so I wanted to know why.
Yes. And then okay, the romance between Toka and Kaneki was good. I think for people like it wasn't built up enough. For me I just assumed like oh I see enough, but then there's stuff
Well,
going on that we're not
we
seeing,
assume they were spending
you know.
every day together working at Onteku for
Hmm.
a long time, so
Yeah. It also was interesting to like see the ghoul side and then the human side through Kaneki and him trying to like navigate that and be like, guys, we can, work this out. Um, and like get along, which they kind of did in the
out
end.
of
But
necessity.
yeah. Uh and okay, the intros, well, we already mentioned it, but 2 out of 4 intros were good, and one outro I thought was good. But that's not really, I feel like for most shows, like the intros for me are either good or just okay, and they're just like okay. This one, the 2 intros, I like did not like them. Like these are not good.
Yeah, we
But
had the ones we did like were Unravel, Half, and oh, what was the last? Catharsis. Catharsis.
yes, yes, that one was good. This kind of goes along with like the characters being good, but the friendships were also like Hide and Kaneki
Yeah.
were really good friends. I don't know. I liked seeing like Hide literally like immediately found out that Kaneki was a ghoul and was like,
Yeah.
"Nope, he's still my buddy."
Yeah,
And
and
like
he said
I'm
that
gonna
he he kept persevering, but he was also I mean, like a part of me is like, I wish he would have just told him right away, flat out, I know you're a ghoul. But there was something special about Hide protecting Kaneki by like, keeping that in confidence. Like, I'm not gonna let
hmm.
him know till I have to. And
Yeah.
and it was such a weight off of Kaneki's shoulders when Hide is like, I know, and I don't care.
Hmm. And then the last thing that we liked was the only character that we actually thought had like character growth was Urie.
Urie. Yeah.
Yeah. Because like he seriously he actually was, I think. He's like the only one that like learned something and like because he started out where he's like, I'm just in it for myself and I want to become better than Hayase and but then he like learned to care for his mates, and then he forgave himself and realized it wasn't his father's death wasn't his fault, and like he actually like
Yeah. He came into his
he
own, and
yeah
I
yeah
appreciated that.
he was it's a good one character that I felt like actually changed and like grew, and it like
Yeah.
made sense, I guess.
Yes. Yep. All right, let's talk about what we didn't like.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was gonna say like it all went downhill once Kaneki was tortured, which
Yeah.
is does happen in the manga, but
Right.
I think well, I guess from what it sounds like, they did not do the torture scenes, they did not do a good job. Which is like part of me is like, I don't really want to see the torture, but
You want to see the
uh,
result.
yeah, and you didn't really
Yeah.
get to
And
see that.
that also is the end of season one, so of course everything went downhill after
Yeah,
that.
that too is like, well, season two is like totally anime original, so of course it's gonna go downhill.
Yeah.
Um, and we also didn't care about most of the characters.
I mean, there were some
Like,
really good ones, but then they had this whole side story about Shu and his family, and I was like, I could not care less about this pervy dude.
wait, who's Shu?
The one who was sniffing
Oh,
his underwear.
weirdo. Honestly, I didn't. Okay, I agreed. I couldn't care. I didn't care about his whole side story, but at the end, like he grew
He
on
joined
me.
them. I mean,
Like
like,
I didn't.
he joined
I don't
them,
know.
and I appreciated him being their support, but also I was kind of confused, like, how did you get to this point where we consider you a friend? I don't like
Right,
you.
right. But
Funny
it.
story, funny side story. I was listening to a voice actor panel and J. Michael Tatum plays Shu, and he was talking about that scene where he was sniffing the handkerchief
Uh.
that had Kaneki's
Okay,
blood on
that's
it.
not as creepy as the underwear, but yeah.
No, but he's like, we got to that scene, and I think it was an audio engineer. He's like, we got a new guy in that day. This was his first time doing audio engineering for anime. And I look at him and I say, okay, buddy, try not to look at me as I do this. It's gonna be really gross. You're gonna hear noises that are really bad. And it's like, okay, how bad can it be? After the recording session, it's disgusting. He's like, yeah, told you so. So I appreciate that the voice actors went all out in the booth, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. And I would say, like, for the most part, like, I liked most of the ghouls. Like, I
Hmm.
feel like we got to know them well enough and, like, you cared about them. It was mostly like all the CCG people, especially in season three. But even before that, I was like, who
Well,
are these
they just
people?
kept
Like,
introducing more people, and then they died,
yes.
and we were supposed to care that they died.
Yeah, and then but it seemed but like the way they did it, it like seemed like we should know them. Like they
Yeah,
acted like we should know them and should care and be like, "Bro, I don't know your
I didn't read the
backstory.
manga.
I don't know your name. I every there was like every fight that happened with the CCG in season three, like it was so jarring. Like all of a sudden they were in a fight and then there was like all these new members and it just was like cool, what's happening? It was very strange. Yes, okay. And then our complaint about the romance between Kaneki and Toka.
Oh
It
yes.
like moved so fast in the end. It was like, what the heck? They literally like made a baby and got married in one episode. And no,
Huh.
they confessed to each other, made a baby, and got married in one episode.
Yeah.
It was I was just like what did I say? I was like, what is this? Some um
Colleen
fa
Hoover book or
like it
something.
was like what is this like a romantic fantasy novel? Like what is happening here? It was I
Well,
did not appreciate it.
and the thing was that it's just how do I put this into words? They had a scene, a very steamy scene, and I respected that they tried to animate it prettily, like they weren't trying to emphasize certain things. But like it lasted a long time and the episode was still rushed. And like you devoted
Mhm.
that much time to that scene. It's one of those scenes where like you're watching anime and your parents walk in. That is the exact scene where your parents walk in.
Yeah, it was
And
not a comfy scene to watch.
and then you said something like, "Oh, of course she's pregnant after the first time they do it." Like,
Oh, that was obviously gonna happen. Come on. But it just I don't know, it reminded me of like well you I don't know if you watched this far, but in Sword Art Online, like basically the same. thing kind of happens. Like they get married and like adopt a kid in like one
Oh,
episode,
right,
and
right.
it's like, what the heck? But yeah, just like too fast, guys. Slow down.
Okay, anyway. One thing I had beef with was there were two girls in the series who hid their gender. We could tell right away because, they got a woman
Hmm.
voice actress and the way that they were drawn was kind of androgynous. But like the first girl, that foreign girl who worked for Shu, she kind of had a reason. Like she was trying to pose as her brother, basically. I think that was the gist of it. But like after a certain point, it's like you're working for this family, they're gonna find out eventually, and most people you work with already know. So just just do it. Just tell them.
Hmm.
And then with Mutsuki, with her, there was really I we never got the explanation for why she was hiding her gender because there was another girl in her squad. She could have
Yeah, maybe they explained it in the
eh.
manga, but it would, yeah, it just like
Yeah.
didn't make any
It
sense.
just, I mean, like, it makes me mad because if you're gonna pull a Mulan and cross dress and fight, it's got to be like a situation where it's like girls aren't allowed to fight, or I mean,
Hmm.
she could have been like concerned about people viewing her as weak if she said she was a girl. But on the flip side of that, then people would just think she's a very young, scrawny man, and they would still think that she was weak.
Hmm. Yeah, it didn't make any sense. Um, Another thing that I didn't like was that they didn't like focus on really bringing the two groups together enough until like the very end. Like the whole thing at the beginning was Kaneki was like, I'm gonna bring ghouls and humans together. And then like season two, that didn't happen at all. And season three, like they just I don't
Yeah,
understand
I
what
mean, they're kind
they
of living among
there was
humans
no
now.
plan. Like it would
Yeah.
just was dumb.
I'll just briefly mention this, but like, I had a problem with the is anyone actually dead? Because some characters did die and stayed dead, but other characters they kept bringing back. Granted, there are characters that I didn't want to die, but like, it's like, is anyone dead? Yes, no, what am I supposed to think? And that also, kind of goes into my next point, which is like, how do you actually kill a ghoul? Because some ghouls get shot with one bullet and die instantly, and other ghouls are like, I got stabbed through the vitals 16 times and I'm still kicking. So I want to know what the rules are in this world, so I know what to expect and how to,
Hmm.
you can't expect a main character to overcome their limits if you don't know what their limits are.
Yeah. Yeah, it didn't make any sense.
Nope.
Um,
And I guess the last thing, which probably goes hand in hand with, what was happening in the manga, didn't line up with what was happening in the anime. What was happening with Uta, the mask maker guy? Like, I liked him, and then all of a sudden he's fighting against his friends, but then they forgive him, and is he staying with them now? Like, is he still part of their group? I don't know.
yeah, I think honestly, a lot of these season three things specifically can
Yeah.
probably be explained by 180 chapters being adapted into 24 episodes.
Yeah.
Like, that's insane. But yeah, th those are just some of the things that we did and did not like. And
Yep.
you probably agree with us. Okay, and then the last thing we just wanted to share some of our like our favorite characters and our least favorite characters.
Yep. My favorite, to no one's surprise, is Hide. Actually, the only thing I got spoiled for the show before we started watching it was like his reveal when he pulls down his mask and his face is like half gone. So I knew that was coming before it actually happened. But he's just such like a solid guy. Like he's such a good friend, never gives up on anybody, so persistent, and has like this strength of character that I really admire. So yeah,
Hmm.
what about you, Meg?
My favorite character was Juzo.
Yeah.
At first, at first when you meet him, you're like, he's insane. I don't know if I like him. But then
Then you're
I don't
like,
know,
he's insane. I love him.
yeah, he just grows on you. Like I
Yeah.
like I like that he's like really strong and like doesn't like he has morals, but like Not really. Actually, I feel like you see him kind of develop
Yeah, as
morals.
he
Like,
interacts with more people and starts caring about them, he
yeah,
gets morals.
yeah.
And he's voiced by Alphonse Elric, so
Yep.
what's not to like?
And then who's your least favorite character?
Big Madam. Juzo did not deserve that kind of treatment growing up. She's the worst.
Oh, yeah, she's like just a gross character, honestly.
There's a lot of gross characters.
Yeah. Yes, and my least favorite was Nico. He
The
I
clown
don't
looking
even
guy.
yeah, he like looked like a clown. He was just super creepy to me and I was like, ew, get
Yeah.
away. Get away.
So, in
Ah.
conclusion, should you watch this show? Just watch the
No.
intro. Just watch Unravel.
Yeah,
You'll be good. You're
just
good.
listen to the intro. If you want, watch the first season and read the manga. But
Yep.
just be warned, it's very dark.
And that's all we've got for you on this topic. But thanks for listening.
All right, bye.
Bye.